Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week. Well, this is our penultimate Halloween episode.
Yippity-doo.
Yippity-doo.
What the fuck is yippity-doo? Where did that come from?
Skibbity. Our Halloween episodes, I don't know if you know this or not, but historically don't do very well viewership-wise.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So maybe this will be the final nail in the Eating Soup Alone coffin, but I will also... Okay, so we're doing something different. The movie is also playing.
Yes.
And that might catch my eye every now and again, and I might get a little distracted.
That's totally fine.
But Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I think it's 2 years before Scream. I think this is 94.
Yes. Have you ever seen this movie before?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, no. And so basic setup is that it is set in the real world, a.k.a. Heather Langenkamp is back, and she just plays herself. She's married to a man who's not her real-life husband, but the character's based on the real-life husband. He just didn't want the role. Mm-hmm. So they made a fictional version of her real-life husband. And then a child. You don't really know any of that in the cold open. The cold open is an homage to the opening of Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, where like it keeps cutting between the nightmare that Tina's having and Freddy like making the glove, but then you find out that it's her husband making the glove on a Nightmare on Elm Street set, an actual set, and then the glove comes to life and it kills all of the VFX people on set. Heather wakes up. There's a earthquake. This is something that happens many times throughout the movie. She keeps having real life not real life.
She's like having premonitions.
Yeah, she's having nightmares, but that and then it's also with like this like reoccurring earthquake thing that like also at a certain point the earthquakes are not real earthquakes because she talks to like the doctor. Yeah, she talks to the doctor and she's like, oh, it's just because of the earthquake earlier, and she's like, earthquake earlier?
I don't
think it got here then.
If I'm right, I don't know where I'm getting this from. I think in California around this time, what they mentioned in the beginning did like 5 earthquakes within 2 weeks did happen. Yeah. So that's accurate, but also there's too many earthquakes in this movie.
Anyways, so husband and kid, and they all come together, and they're like, oh my god, what a crazy earthquake. Next morning, they go off and do their thing. You have something to say?
I love the beginning because it's the homage to him like making the glove at the beginning, and then they're like, gotcha, it's on a movie set. And I was like, oh, I should have known. I know that's what this movie's about. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh god, he's getting them. And then they're like, gotcha, it's a dream. I'm like, oh, I know it's a Nightmare on Elm Street. I should have known that. They're like, also double gotcha. There's also an earthquake happening.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I did try to watch this movie, and I was like, fucking boring. Because when I was a kid, there's nothing more boring to me at the time than like if it was like a meta movie where like they're making a movie in the movie. I was like, fuck no.
Yeah.
No. Just show me a movie, please.
Dude, in the movie, if I can see the lights above a set in the movie, I'm watching the whole thing.
So, anyways, as it plays, here's another earthquake. She's having another earthquake, and the wall is cracking in the shape of Freddy claw scratch. Let's move forward. That
seems like a huge deal to me. She looks at this thing in the wall a bunch through this movie, but it's not like a crack in the wall. Like her house is coming apart.
Yeah. And then she also keeps having, like, it's so hard to tell what is real and what is a dream or whatever, but, her son is sleepwalking, and she keeps having, like, these dreams that he keeps watching Nightmare on Elm Street. And then Heather has to go do press, and she basically, like, it's a funny scene because Robert Englund comes out fully dressed like Freddy, but she finds out that they're going to do another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, right? Which is like bonkers to her and whatnot. I think pretty soon after she is approached, by the guy who runs New Line Cinema,
Bobby Shea.
Yeah, and the Bad Men. And they tell her like, hey, we want to have you back or whatever. More spooky. It's a bunch of spooky dreams. You know, she has a bunch of spooky dreams. Kid has a bunch of spooky dreams. Don't know why it's paused. Oh yeah, her husband gets murdered. That's one of the first things that happens, right? He's driving home because of whatever. She calls and she says, "Hey, I'm still having all these nightmares, and I think our baby boy's also in trouble."
Yeah, she has that first nightmare on the movie set.
Yeah.
And then son is, if I'm correct, telling her about these weird dreams he's having that definitely sound like there's a Freddy Krueger in them.
Yeah, 'cause he just says, like, yeah, there's a mean man in a hat with claw hands, and he lives in my bed. And I got to keep my dog Rex, or my dinosaur Rex nearby, or else he'll get me.
She's also getting phone calls from a stalker that sound like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
And she keeps, like, waking up to her son standing in the living room or the kitchen, I can't tell, watching Nightmare on Elm Street 1 on TV, which is pretty cool, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the end of Freddy's Dead, where they show the montage, or Freddy vs. Jason, where they show the montage. Every time I see clips from that first movie, I'm like, God, that's so cool. But when I watch that first movie, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So there's only, like, I think technically 2 murders that happen on screen. I mean, there's, like, the other 4 VFX guys who got killed in the beginning, but whatever. The first one being her husband, who gets killed driving home. He falls asleep, kind of like the one from
Bad Year Dan.
Bad Year Dan. And maybe this is a good time to take a detour because you brought up the quips. This is a not very funny Freddy.
No, which I don't mind. I do. How do you feel? I mean, I like him. How do you feel about him in general in this movie?
In general, good. I like what they've done because I guess jump ahead. Basically, the idea is that he's not Freddy Krueger. There's a real life evil demon that Wes Craven basically says, like, to express him in art is to sort of trap him there. But as soon as you kind of stop that, then he's just kind of out there. And so in his theory, the demon is using, like, the Freddy Krueger iconography basically as a way to, like, just spook people. You get what I'm saying? So
I got a different read on it, but also maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Oh, that's explicitly stated.
Is it?
Not. Yeah, that's not like a not paying. Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what Wes Craven's, like, rundown.
Here's me rewriting it in a way that's way better. Freddy Krueger, this monster that we see in this movie, is something that he was having dreams about before he made the first one.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to make a movie about that.
Yeah.
And then, like, found out that, like, this demon, you can trap it in a story and yada yada. So the Freddy Krueger we see in all these other movies is just kind of like a weird, less scary, watered down version of the one that's in this movie.
Okay.
That he had a dream of.
Yeah.
And so he's not like, ooh, I'm gonna look like Freddy Krueger to scare these people. He's just the original real world Freddy Krueger. Yeah. So he is a little bit.
That is spooky in its own right. I will say, part of, like, demon, I'm gonna call it culture because that's funnier, is that, like, they like to, like, for example, like, they always say that, like, oh, ghosts don't exist. It's just demons manipulate your memories of your loved ones to get you to acknowledge them. And so I like that idea of, like, demons somehow being like, Freddy Krueger, huh? Good look. Red and white, red and green stripes. I like it. Let's add a trench coat.
Love it.
How about what if it was, like, knee-high combat boots laced up, and then
what are the kids into these
hat
days?
Let's make hat green. Have you ever seen green hat like that? I've never seen green hat.
I've never seen green hat like that, but the first time I noticed green hat is right when he's killing babysitter.
Yeah.
I think I like it. I like it because it kind of just, I hate to say it, it pops. It just works. It, like, stands out, but it's not too much. And, like,
I feel like if it was a dimly lit scene, I wouldn't mind it or even notice that much, but it's just fucking, like, dull, flat,
it's like a
bright,
dull,
it's like
flat, it's like a
hospital light, and it's just out there.
And it's like an olive drab green, and it's felt, and it just feels tangible to me. Like, I see him in that hat, and I'm like, oh, that's a guy that could be standing next to me. For some, I don't know what it is, why that hat spoke to me so much, but it did.
Well, real quick though, I will say, if I had to nitpick one thing, it's that, he basically gives that speech Wes Craven does about the whole, like, trapping a demon in a story, and that's when he's like, we gotta make one more nightmare, Heather.
Yeah.
Get the team back together. Boys are back in town. Except once you finish making that movie, he's gonna be loose again. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? So like the we got to make one more movie thing doesn't fully work.
I think my favorite part of this movie is that Wes Craven wrote this movie like, you know what? I'm going to be in this movie. And you know what? I'm going to be a prophet of God. I think his whole thing, because he's the prophet of God in this movie, is that he doesn't really think that an actual movie's going to happen because they get the script at the end and it's what is happening to them currently at that moment.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Whatever. I'm fine with it.
Because what I was thinking was like, because it reminds me of Perfect Blue. And like by that point in my headcanon, I'm assuming that like in a weird blending of reality and fantasy, the movie has been shot and it's actually done now.
Okay.
Also, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that she has to go on now and shoot the movie. I think that she like lost the plot in the midst of it.
I thought what it was, or what I think it is Wes Craven is writing this movie as this movie's going on, and he knows that what he's writing is happening.
Yeah.
And so when he tells her we got to do one more nightmare, what he means is like, I'm gonna write a thing so that you're gonna go to hell tomorrow and fight Freddy Krueger, all right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why when she gets out of it and she get the Wes Craven's New Nightmare script in front of her, and he's just like, thanks a ton, which I like. I think that adds a little bit like another layer on top of it that. On the prophet of God thing, which I can't get over. It's so good. Mm-hmm. That adds like another meta layer on top of it, that this movie about making a movie is also being written by the guy making the movie while we're watching it. Mm-hmm. It's good. I not to skip to the end and our rankings and stuff like that, Chris, I think this movie kicks ass. Mm-hmm. I think this movie's so good.
I agree. Yeah.
I think this movie's pretty good. I wish it was better, but also when I think about it, if it was better, we wouldn't have Scream. But like right off the rip when we were watching it, it's probably because we just watched 3 really bad ones.
This was clearly made by like a director.
This is a movie.
Yeah, and like a team of people that were like cohesive and had direction and focus and like intent.
Yeah.
Because like again, like I know that there are a lot of people out there who like really like these movies and consider them to be like their favorite horror franchise. Like I'm talking like, you know, YouTubers that I like, you know, the Dead Meat channel or whatever, or like that Chris Leach guy, or even like I think I watched a Chris Stuckman video the other day where he talked about like, you know, being a Freddy fan more than like a Jason fan or something like that. These fucking movies are tough. Mm-hmm. And they really like, again, like, you know, in just my personal opinion, like the Jason movies, I can at least watch and be like, wow, fun. It looks like people got together and just had a good time, and also happened to make like a movie that you can watch.
Yeah.
The Halloween ones, there's a stretch of like 1 to 5 that I really like. There's a stretch from like 6 to like Halloween Resurrection, Halloween H2O. That's just like kind of like 90s, early 2000s post Scream, like kind of like blech, but they're fine. Mm-hmm. Except for probably like the one with like Busta Rhymes, whatever. It gets spotty, but you know what I'm saying. There's like 1 or 2 in there that's like still fine. And then there's like the modern last 3 trilogy that are like genuinely, they're fine. There's like highs and lows, obviously. But with this one, it was just like, in my opinion, like it's just a fucking, just like.
Yeah, because they made like one of these a year.
Slug of just like, good. Because
it was it feels like, I think what it is them being like, hey, Freddy Krueger is hot as fuck right now. We got to be making as many of these movies as we can while this iron's still hot. And with the other ones like Jason and Michael, it's more so like, we got to get these things to be more popular. We got to keep making these movies until they actually hit.
With this guy, it's one of those things where it's like The Exorcist or Jaws or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where like Freddy just didn't need a sequel.
Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the other ones, I mean, also Michael Myers didn't necessarily need a sequel, but at least, like, you know, with something like, you know, the Jason, you know, Friday the 13th movies, you got the movie every single time, same movie, basically, and that was fine, you know, but I don't think it works for this one, because it's kind of like, the best way I can describe it, and I guess, you know, we'll talk more about it in our last episode, because that's when we can do our big series, you know, analysis kind of thing. But like, I will say, it just feels like even though they kept coming up with like, oh, what if the baby's in her belly dreaming, and like, oh, what if his mom was a nun? They keep like trying to add stuff to it, but it also feels like they don't know what the fuck to do with Freddy.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because
it's too nebulous of an idea. He's like a dream guy.
well,
How do you defeat him? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that like it doesn't have enough legs to like take you anywhere besides what the first movie is. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, yeah, and like I think the ending of these movies obviously is the hardest part of all of them because like how do you defeat Freddy Krueger but also have another one after it?
Yeah.
But when it comes to all three of the big baddies, I feel like yeah, Michael Myers having sequels is a bad idea. Jason, whatever,
Yeah.
they're just dumb fun. But I think the one that conceptually works best to have a sequel is A Nightmare on Elm Street because you know, your main cast of kids changes from movie to movie in all these slashers, and they're just a new group of people with different, you know, anxieties and troubles that can have different nightmares.
Yeah.
And that can be interesting every single time because it's not, you know, oh God, how do we make a guy with a knife stabbing someone interesting? You know, that's tough.
Yeah.
But to have the open road of a dream seems like it would be just
Seems.
exactly. It seems like it could be really good,
Yeah.
but like we've been talking through all these, it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, let's just have this guy who lives in his van direct this next one, and so
Yeah.
each one is just like I don't know.
Well, because I'll also say I think that there's probably something to that thing where like people don't like when you get to the end of a movie and it was like, and it was all a dream. I think that does undercut a lot of the kills for me. The fact that
Yeah.
they're dreams. I think it really does. Like, it's a clever idea, but again, I don't think it sustains itself for more than a film.
Yeah, I get that.
Because after a certain while, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're dreaming, and they're going to die, and what's going to happen in the real world? Most of these movies actually doesn't even have them, like, replicate their dream injuries in the real world, so it's just they died peacefully in their sleep. Everything we're seeing, it's, like, no different than and it was all a dream ending. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Yeah,
basically, they could have had a heart attack, and that nightmare never even necessarily happened, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't
It's
matter.
like-
The dreams don't matter.
Yeah, like in the Dream Blaster Master Warrior movies, those three,
Yeah.
when they like, there's the girl that gets the air sucked out of her, or the girl who's choking at dinner, and they like in those movies, they're just dead. They
Yeah.
just like people around them are like, oh, this person who is asleep is now just dead, which I guess kind of works in those when they're trying to be like, hey, adults and other people, Freddy Krueger is real. It's like, no, this person just died in their sleep.
Yeah.
But what works really, really, really well is when Nancy's friend is having a dream and is being dragged onto the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, that's kick ass.
Yeah.
And keep
Yeah.
doing that. And maybe sometimes...
But then they didn't.
yeah, and maybe sometimes that's what happens, and that's not what happens depending on what Freddy Krueger wants to do. If Freddy Krueger wants to scare people or have people... or gaslight people. Either one works. You can even switch it back and forth mid-movie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But all of these movies just hat on a hat on a hat, like we keep saying. Like, they're like, oh man, he's got to be he's the son of 1,000 psychopaths, or he's the dream demons gave him this job or whatever. It's like, you don't need any of that. You just need more like the second one being the gay one and him being like the underlying point of that movie is a guy struggling with his sexuality. You can do that with a bunch of different like things that people are struggling with in their real lives through their dreams through Freddy Krueger to make a decent movie. Or even if you don't want to go that deep with it, you can make really fun and clever dreams like you would expect these movies to have, even when they get goofy towards the end, and they just don't. He's playing a Nintendo and just shit like that, you know? So I think these could have been really, 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 really good, or at least as fun as what I thought Friday the 13th was. But they just get to the point where like, hey, listen, we got this happening and the TV show, and we're making video games, and so we're doing 100 of these things at a time, and so it just kind of gets diluted by the end of it.
Well, back to this film. So the husband dies in a scene that, like I said, the good year Dan thing or bad year Dan. And then, so whatever, she's dead, and she's like, oh, I had like a nightmare about that kind of a thing, or whatever happens. She just goes to the morgue, and she's like, let me see the dead body, please. And they show him the dead body, which they have to do because, yes, she has to ID it.
Also, I love Every time you see a morgue scene in a movie, someone goes there in the middle of the night, and there's one guy working there, and he's got like he's either got big glasses or he's like chewing gum or something like that. And
Yeah.
All right, come over, I'll take you to see the body. In this, she goes to the morgue. There's 30 people working.
Yeah.
And there's just a open dead guy in the middle of the room that a
Yeah.
guy's like chainsawing through and stuff like that. It's just don't know what that decision was, why
Yeah.
it happens, but I do love it.
They pull back the curtain, and he's got Freddy stabs all over his chest, and just the claw marks. And again, I think this is something that the series has been doing for a while that, like, I think kind of works here more than it has in some of the sequels. Like I've said many, many times, my big, like, gripe has been like, dude, come on. With, like, I get it that it's, like, insane to make that jump to, like, okay, these kids are actually getting murdered in their sleep. What do we do about it? I know that's an insane leap, but it is, like, just so frustrating, like, just the classic, like, old lady just being like, I'll not hear any more talk of a night demon.
Mm-hmm.
Even though someone, like, has, like, Freddy fucking killed this dude in his sleep, bitch, written in his chest or whatever. She's still like, and, like, buttons it back up. But, you know, realistically, like, yeah, like, when she's like, how come his chest looks like that? She's like, it was a bad crash, ma'am.
Yeah.
You know, like, I like that thing where, like, it comes more out of competence, not out of, like the way that it had been handled for a couple of sequels there, it was almost, like, overcompensating, almost like...
Yeah.
Like, almost like when don't walk like that, I'll have no gay son. Like, you just, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll have no more Freddy Krueger talk.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, it's like, you know, so anyways.
Like, there is, like, a bit of that in this movie, which bugs me, like, when she's calling her husband at the beginning.
Yeah.
After her son has his first, like, weird fugue state.
Yeah.
And she's like, something's going on with son. And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know, he was just acting weird. He's like, what do you mean he's acting weird? She's like, he's acting like... He was acting like Freddy. And the husband's like, oh my fucking God.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get another phone call today?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I did. He's like, fine, I'll come home. It's like, no, I think your son being in a fugue state.
Yeah.
You should believe your wife saying that.
Yeah.
You should be concerned whether
Yeah.
or not she has
And
a
I will
stalker.
say, again, for the millionth time, the whole thing where he's like, did you have another phone call today? It's like, bro, even if she's hallucinating phone calls, you don't belittle her for that.
Yeah.
You get, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with, like, movies and, like, the way that they treat mental health. Because, like, I know it's not great in real life, but it's, at least in my opinion, I've never seen it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it in other ways. I really have seen it be dismissive like that, but, like, not like that kind of a thing where it's like I don't know, like, I know for a fact it happens. I'm just saying, like, you listen to how silly it sounds out loud. Like, you'd be so as pissed as I'm being if, like, you were like, oh, I'm suicidal, and I was like, oh, did you think about killing yourself again today?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, God. But
I know
anyways.
if it was like, oh God, I'm feeling suicidal, and you're like, let me guess, did you skip breakfast again today?
Yeah.
It just got a pang of like, it's just.
It's got this thing where it's like, not at the time. I do love John Saxon's back, and he plays like a very fatherly role for
So
Heather. It goes to the point, one of my things that I think is like a moment of brilliance in this thing is
Oh.
the point where, like, they start actually just like saying the lines from the first one
So good.
and saying, like, I love you and stuff, like they are mom or dad and daughter or whatever. But anyways, trucking along through this thing, you know, there's that scene in the park where he climbs to the top, he falls. There's that scene where she calls Robert Englund and he's painting Freddy, and he's like bricked about it. He's like, yeah, let me guess, he's getting phone calls. Oh, and it's from Freddy, but he's not nice like me, is he? He's a meanie. Oh, he's a real big meanie. And she's like, can we talk tomorrow morning? He's like, yeah, no, I think I gotta go to Cabo.
Yeah, and I love that he's painting this whole scene, and then they cut to the painting, and it's arguably the first painting this person's ever done. I do also love when she's like, no, it's like Freddy, but scarier. Robert Englund does it great. Just like, I think he just does it a little bit with his face of like like he's offended by that. Like,
yeah.
Oh, so there's a different, scarier Freddy Krueger. And I also like the little insinuation. No one ever comes right out and says it. Everybody's having these dreams about scary Freddy Krueger. And like all the other movies, nobody else except for our main character is admitting it or wants to talk about it.
How do you feel about new Freddy glove hand?
I don't love it. I liked it when I thought, he was an original thing that he was having dreams of, and that's like what real demon's arm looks like. And so, like, when Wes Craven remade it in the first movie, it's like, it's a metal glove that he puts on. But yeah, they definitely show at the beginning the husband making this new glove for new spooky Freddy, and then this Freddy steals it. So I don't like it.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't know. I like that it comes out of the fingers and it's not like a glove, and on the back it's kind of like bony and it looks like it's like an organic extension of him, but
Yeah, it's got like tubes and piping, like veins in it.
But again, I think my favorite just being the second one, where like the knives just come out of the tips of his fingers.
Yeah. I get
Anyways, then Heather finally gets screwed at the point where she's like, "I'm taking boy to hospital," and she meets doctor. Doctor, not nice lady. She's like, "Let me guess, your son has seen your films? No?" And she's like,
she's so good.
I do like though when she's eventually like, she's like, "Dog, it's Freddy fucking Krueger. It's like Fred Flintstone or fucking." Martin Luther King Jr. Like, it's just everybody knows who the fuck Freddy Krueger is. Like, I can't keep my son from knowing who Freddy Krueger is.
I do. I love the doctor though. I love that actress. I can't remember what her name is, but she's just really good in this movie, and she is like a Bad Year Dan. The callback to that kill. She's definitely a callback to that doctor
Bad Year Dan.
In the third one, who I refer to as Amando bitch, but is correct the entire time.
Yeah.
But I think this doctor in this movie does a much, much, much better job. Like she's like the antagonist toward the end, apart from Freddy, because she keeps trying to take her son away from her, and like Heather's right because Freddy Krueger is coming for him. But also, I do love the doctor. The doctor's like, oh yeah, no, I'm a doctor. I'm going to do everything in my power to get this kid away from this woman.
Yeah.
I just think she's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, once we get to the point of like, what's the scariest dream or this, that, and the other best joke, I'm probably not going to have anything for this one.
Okay.
Because I mean, like, is there an explicit dream that you remember being the scariest? I guess in general, I'd just say like, anytime her son sleepwalks into the kitchen and watches the movie, because like there's a time or two where like it's unplugged, so that implies that it's like a dream. So I guess that.
Yeah, I feel like that's most of this movie. Straight up, this movie is probably like 45 minutes too long.
Oh
yeah, way too long.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be 2 hours. That's for sure.
Because I feel like the part where she wakes up and finds Danny sleepwalking in the living room with the TV on happens 9 or 10 times.
Yeah, only has to happen once.
Yeah.
And you can just say through dialogue like, it keeps happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can fill in the gaps.
This part's sick.
Yeah, second kill. I mean, it's a little cheap because it's like I've already put it on the list, but yeah, I'm such a big fan of Tina's kill that I'd probably put. I think. Oh God, what's her name? What is the babysitter's name?
Julie.
Yeah. Julie's kill, I'd probably put that as, I guess, like my favorite kill, because again, I'm just a big fan of Tina's kill.
I like it, but it's like Tina's kill, but worse, because Tina's kill works really well, it turns out, because you don't see Freddy Krueger also stomping around on the ceiling with her.
Yeah, with his crow boots, like he's the crow.
Something.
Julie!
I was thinking about it watching this, like, especially right here in this scene where he's, babysitter's dying on the ceiling while he's watching. It's like
that head tilt is pretty spooky.
It's like in The Shining.
That's funny.
I always think about like, what is this actor seeing right now? And so obviously this kid's not really seeing the babysitter being dragged up the wall and brutally murdered. But then later in the movie, a big rubber Freddy Krueger opens his mouth, and I'm like, that's scary to look at. And then it cuts to the kid. He's like, that's scary. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that kid's not in the room with that thing because that thing's horrifying. And then the next shot is both of them in the same shot and him getting put in that thing's mouth. And I'm like, that kid's done for. Like,
yeah,
that actor, that boy is not grown up to be a well-adjusted man. That's so fucked.
Well, let's see what else is going on here. There's a bit of a runaround because she's like, my son sleepwalks. You gave him a sedative, and that doesn't keep him.
Your pass.
Yeah. Anyways, she goes home. Her son is home.
White.
John Saxon's here. What's that?
Her hair turns white like the first movie.
Hair turns white like the first movie.
This is my favorite dream. This is my favorite part of the movie. Because it's not like they're having... John Saxon's there to help her because, yes, son ran away from the hospital across the freeway. And John Saxon's there to help, and they get inside their house, and she's like, listen, John Saxon, this fucked up shit's happening. And I can't exactly remember what he says, but he says something that doesn't really fit.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's strange. And then they go outside, and she's like, where are you going? And he says it again, but when he turns around, he's dressed like he is in the first movie.
Yeah.
Then it cuts back to her, and she's dressed like she is in the first movie. And, like, he's just saying what he says in that scene in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this. It's a phrase I don't like. Just really, really douchey guys say it all the time. But I gotta admit, under my breath, when that happened, I went, oh, let's fucking go. This is so good. And then she falls into the set of Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Mm-hmm. This is the demons Casa.
which is fun. Same thing from the beginning where that nightmare happens. That set that they're on in her dream at the beginning is this.
Okay.
And I like that this whole ending is also an homage to all the other movies because the ending sucks, just like the other ones.
Yeah. You're not fucking with it?
No, I mean he is pretty scary. Like I said, when he turns into a big rubber head, that's just it's a little off-putting to me, and I don't like it. But then also, he just
gets Hansel and Gretel because the kid loves Hansel and Gretel.
Look at this. Oh, like look at that boy. That boy is inside that big scary monster's mouth.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate it.
Yeah, I had a nightmare one time. I think I've probably talked about it a million times, but that I was Batman and I was in the back of a van fighting the Joker, and I punched him, and it just went right down his throat, and he just started like laughing up my arm.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Ugh. But
yeah,
this end part also, it's just like it feels like the other movies where it's just like really inconsistent in like the worst way possible. Like I remember for sure there's a scene where he like is running away from Freddy and like sees him on the other side of a gate and goes and turns around to run away, and then Freddy's just behind him again. But then right here he's just stuck in a door and can't move. It's like, well, we just saw him teleport a minute ago. So.
Yeah. So basically, so the kid's a big fan of Hansel and Gretel, and Freddy gets Hansel and Gretel. That's how he's dead for the final time, I think.
I love
in the main like run of sequels.
I love when he comes out of the bed. He looks like Nosferatu. And then they do the thing with the shadow on the wall, just like Nosferatu.
Yeah,
but
I like it. Yeah, I like that in general. He looks kind of like Mr. Ferratu.
Yeah, I really, really, really like 90% of this movie. Just the last few minutes don't really hold up that well, and also, it just it's a little bit too long.
I need a pen. Give me 1 second. You're in luck for this next number because I took notes.
Ooh, ditto.
Gotta find my list. Where's my list? Here we go. All right. In the rankings, where does this fall? For me, I'm going to put it right underneath the first one. So it's going to go 2, 1. This is what, fucking 7?
Straight new.
So 2, 1, 7, 6, 3, 4, 5. So, Freddy's Revenge, the second one, the original, New Nightmare, Freddy's Dead, the final Nightmare, controversial, and then 3, 4, 5 for me.
I'm going to put it at number 2. Right
number 2?
The second one. So it goes 2, 7, 1.
2, 7, 1. 3, 4, 5. Where was 6? Oh, 6 was just under 1. So 2, 7, 1, 6, 3, 4, 5. Okay. This look. Where would you place this look?
What I have it 2, 1. Right?
No. 2, 5, 4, 3, 1.
I'm gonna put it in the third spot under 5.
Third spot. Okay. I'm gonna put it probably. Yeah, third spot's fine. So mine's gonna go 2, 1, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those ones are less serious because, like, really from 3 to fucking 5, those like 3 movies, he looks basically the same. Best joke, I don't really remember. I know that there was like a point where he put someone's face in the puddle of snakes and he was like, "Pick one out for the Rugrat," or something.
That's good. It's not bad.
Or when he's fucking killing Haley on the ceiling, he's like, "Hey kid, you ever play Skin the Cat?"
It's not bad.
But I got nothing. I'm not really.
I can't remember any of them. So yeah,
I'm gonna put Annie's kill as my favorite. I think. What do you got?
I mean, it has to be that one because there's only the 2.
The Dream. We both said similar things. I mean, you like the end Dream. It's really good. Just
first movie.
Yeah, good.
It's my favorite scene as well.
I think favorite kid is obvious in this one because there's only really.
Dylan.
I mean, there's Dylan, but I mean, like, it's got to be Heather, right? Like, she's not a kid anymore, but like this,
Oh, she's the OG kid, so yeah.
Yeah, she's the OG kid. Yeah, she's the kid. What else is going on here? I guess we got to give it a grade. As far as my grade is concerned, I'm probably giving it a big fat B.
I'm gonna give it a B plus.
B plus. Okay. And is there anything else I have on here? I mean, that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, I mean, closing thoughts for the thing is it's just like this one, the first one, and the second one have really been the only ones that feel kind of like worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like my time was wasted a little bit with 3, 4, 5. With 3, 4, 5, it was like they were trying to do the fun 80s, like, it's like kind of horror and comedy, but it just didn't have any charm for me.
Yeah, it's insane that
felt
they,
like no soul to it. Like there's no charm.
Like it is cool that out of all the slashers, like yeah, those three are like, hey, we're gonna have the same characters movie after movie after movie. But
Yeah.
also, why? I feel like especially after the second one, it's like these people aren't really working, you know?
Yeah.
I think my closing thought on this movie is, it sounds like it definitely, I feel like I can imagine someone telling me like, oh man, I watched this like really good horror movie the other day that's like, you know, it's like about like these people who are making this horror movie, but like in the real world the monster from the movie is like coming to kill like the main actress, you know?
Yeah.
And I could picture hearing that and being like, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess that's clever, but no, I'll never watch that, you know?
Yeah.
But if they were then like, oh no, it's Freddy Krueger and also Wes Craven wrote it and directed it, it's like, oh no, that's sick as hell. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's just
It's fresh. It's good. It's hip. It's new. It's now. It's
Wow.
wow.
so
Yeah.
good job,
Yeah.
Wes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's the last thing I want to say. Also, is like it reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, where it's just like, you know, and there's other examples out there, right? Like I'm sure, like you can think of other examples, but I like the return of like the guy who like birthed the original idea, just for him to be like, yeah, but I don't want to do what the first one was. I have another idea, you know.
Yeah.
And-
I love that shit.
Yeah.
That's how I think the newest Matrix was, and I'm super interested in it, but I don't know if I want to see it, because from my understanding, I think the new Matrix was like, who's the production company of the Matrix?
For some reason, I want to say Miramax.
Okay, let's say Miramax. Miramax was like, hey, Wachowski sisters, we're gonna make another Matrix. You guys should direct it. And they were like, fucking no, probably not. And they're like, okay, but look, we're gonna make another Matrix with or without either of you guys. So, what do you want to do here? And one of the Wachowski sisters was like, okay, fine, I'll direct it. And I think the point of that movie, when you watch it, is that it's bad, like on purpose. And like,
Yeah.
the point of the movie is like, hey, it's dumb as fuck that this is a fourth Matrix movie, huh?
Yeah.
And so I'm very interested in it for that, but also it is just a bad movie, so I don't know if I want to waste my time on it, but also I like the Matrix, so I want to see it.
That's fair. We also have a secret Matrix episode out there that's never been released.
I was just thinking about we should do Back to the Future earlier today.
All right, Freddy vs. Jason. We've already talked about this once, so I do like the idea of revisiting something and re-rating it, but for simplicity's sake, we already gave it a grade last year.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a while before we regrade it. So let's do. Hey, check out the grade book at eatingsoupalone.com if you're curious what we gave this. But I got some questions at the top because we've also talked about it. We can give it a rundown in a second. But I got some questions for you. Do you think this is more of a Friday the 13th movie or a Nightmare on Elm Street movie?
Ooh, question. I'm going to say it is more of a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because it's got the gang of kids. I think the gang of kids in this, I was like, man, they're more of like a Friday the 13th gang of kids than a Nightmare. But like, when you really think about it, they're very like Scream or Final Destination group of kids because it is 2003.
Yeah. Yeah. Who wins?
Oh, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, you know, super apparent that they made Jason like the sympathetic good guy one. And by proxy, I think that that makes it more of a Friday the 13th movie. And it makes it, you know, Jason wins. How they do the boys?
How do they do the boys?
Yeah, how do you feel about how they handle each of the boys?
I think the boys are handled really, really well.
Yeah?
I think this is.
I feel like Jason could have been done better.
Jason could have been done better, probably, but I think this is the best Freddy Krueger is in any of the movies.
Because again, I mean, I've talked about it many times. I'm more of like a Ted White / part 2 and 3, mainly 3. Like a 3 and 4 is the sweet spot for Jason for me. I don't really like the Sackhead one, but I like part 3 and part 4, where he's just kind of not that dumb, a little agile, and kind of just like he like hangs people up in doorways, and like, you know what I'm saying, like he's just got this like weird, like almost like sadistic thing about him, you know? It's like a little twisted. Ugh. And this one is not, in my opinion, really like it's the closest thing I can compare it to is like it's almost like Kane Hodder but without angry. It's like a sad, pathetic Kane Hodder Jason. Because when I think of like dumb and just kind of like, I think of like the Kane Hodder one. But he's got more of a huff puff angry thing to him.
This guy's just here.
Yeah.
Which I like for Jason, if I'm being honest.
Favorite scene?
That's a great question. I do love when Freddy Pillar's smoking that dude out.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let me handle this, bitch.
I don't know. My favorite scene's got to be the cornfield.
Yeah.
Where Jason's on fire walking through it, and then it cuts to the nightmare in the boiler room, and it's good. Just great. This Everclear's kicking my ass, man, and he turns that guy's head around.
Pretty fucking so funny. Good. I have to say, I don't know if I mentioned it in our first review, but I really like Will's buddy, the one that's like ooh, rubbing his ass on the window, when he's like, oh shit, that's why we were in Weston Hills, because they were trying to make us forget or whatever, like the fear. And then Will's like, yeah, well, you spread plenty of it today. And he's like, oh my god, dude, I fucked up so hard, because like it's like it's like not saying that it's happened in real life, but I feel like that's like a kind of a trope, that thing where it's like, a character is like, man, I gotta rebel against the system, and then someone's like, actually, this is why we have the rule, and they're like, oh fuck, I can't believe, you know what I'm saying, like the establishment makes sense, man. It's like and then I like when he's at his house and his nightmare death
is good,
which I think is like the only successful nightmare death that Freddy gets.
Yeah.
And it's good, because it's like, it's genuinely horrifying. I mean, his brother killed himself or whatever, and he shows up with his like fucking wrist slit and stuff.
Yeah, his brother in that bloody bathtub. I'm like, this is the best Nightmare on Elm Street nightmare since probably
the original, probably
the second one. First or second one. It's really good.
Yeah. Next one, best Freddy joke.
Best Freddy joke. I have a couple of them written down because they're like, they're not good like Bad Year Dan or Help Yourself Fucker.
Bad Year Dan.
They're like, and I don't even want to say they're clever. They're like they're pitch perfect in this movie. Like this one's not even a joke. It's just like a one-liner. He says the only thing to fear is fear himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a pretty cold line for Freddy Krueger to say to somebody as he's spooking them in their dream. Or like, that girl's going in to get a nose job and like she falls asleep and Freddy goes, got your nose, and rips her nose off of her face. Love it. That's good. My favorite Freddy joke, though, is probably right after he says fear himself. That girl like trips and falls down and he just goes, oh.
I know it's not the most politically correct thing, but now knowing that it's a play on a line that he had given earlier in the series, the how sweet dark meat, is pretty funny because he also says the how sweet fresh meat thing earlier, and
go on.
It's just funny. I think it's funny to me that like it's a zinger, like in universe he's doing a zinger on one of his previous zingers, and that's for nobody but him. Yeah. No one else heard him say how sweet fresh meat earlier.
Exactly, yeah. I know I changed my mind, but I think my favorite Freddy joke in this is when main girl goes into Jason's nightmare and he's drowning in the lake and she runs over to the counselors.
Oh my god!
And they're like making out and fucking. And he's like, you have to help, aren't you coming? And like the one that's making out turns around and it's Freddy holding a dead girl. He goes, I'm trying, but this bitch is dead on her feet.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I thought you were gonna say this is not intentionally a joke, and I don't. It's actually kind of horrific. It's like, it's such a touchy thing. Like, I'm uncomfortable to the point of laughter with the scene where she goes to help Jason, and then when he comes out of the water and he's physically deformed, she's scared.
She screams and lets him go.
She screams
that's so fucked up.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah,
it's super fucked up. I wrote down Down here, welcome to my nightmare. Penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, he says, welcome to my nightmare,
Oh,
but
he
it's like,
does.
what is his nightmare?
He says, welcome to my nightmare. And it's like, okay, so are you implying that, like, Jason has a nightmare and that you've been there and now it's like, oh, welcome to mine?
And is yours,
Also, you're the nightmare guy.
So you're telling
like,
us your nightmare is just this industrial room?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense.
And then he does the pinball, and then he says tilt. Love that.
Yeah. Deformity scares her. I did just mention that. Connect the dots scene. Yeah, we've talked about that. That's where they're all sitting around, and they're like... Will just starts spitballing, and he's like, wait a second. What if Freddy brought Jason back to life so that he could come here and kill, so that people would start to be afraid of him, so that he could have enough power to come back?
Yeah, and then the girl goes... Jason died by water and Freddy died by fire. How can we use that?
Yeah.
All of this conversation, what you just said and what I just said from what they said, has to be one-to-one what the writers are saying to each other while writing this movie.
Yeah.
For sure, one of them's like, okay, what if Freddy brings Jason back to life? Because people aren't afraid of Freddy anymore. So if he brings him back, like, it's just... these group of people are just writing the movie is what's happening.
What I'll say is... Halloween, Laurie never knows that it's Michael Myers that's after her, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to have all that. They can just be like, oh my god, 2 monsters trying to kill us. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because especially at the end, they don't really facilitate...
Like, you know what this feels like? It feels like Transformers.
Yeah.
Like, they're running around with the Autobots and they're, like, on the ground. Like, how do we help?
It's like, I don't give a fuck about Sam Witwicky. Get him out of here. I want to see Optimus Prime suplex a guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, and this one more than any of them, I'm really like, I could not give a shit what these people are going through.
Yeah.
Like, I like what's his face's dead brother because that really comes back with his nightmare, but they don't use any of the other people's backstories for their nightmare at all. So like when she's in the car with her boyfriend and her dad comes out and he's like, your dad put me in the place, and she's like, did you really do that, Dad? I'm like, wow, I could not care less about any of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had a point earlier. I know that it's like oh, that's right, they do. I said in the movie, I was like, hey, or while we were watching the movie, like, why don't they just give everybody in the fucking town Hypnosil? But then they do have that wing where it's like, these are the kids that took too much Hypnosil. Mm-hmm. I do like that. I like it that they're in the coma and stuff like that.
Do you remember the put them to sleep drug?
Oh, yeah, it's called, like, Tranquil Night Sleepocaine or something. Like, what is it called?
You had me write it down, and you're not far off. It's called Amobatine.
Yeah. So funny. Really quick, just want to mention that Will looks like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber.
He does.
Want to also mention that in the kill that we both like, Will's friend, I wish I could remember his name, it says Freddy's back, burnt into his back, because Freddy does that thing that he did in the third movie where he's like, yeah. Just wish it said Freddy's back, bitch. Because so in the third one, it says, come and get him, bitch.
Yeah.
So anyways, and I just like when Freddy says bitch. Good. Date rape, stolen kill scene. Again, I think we brought it up before, recently even. What is the date rape ad? You know?
One more time?
What is the date rape ad?
Oh, I thought you said, why is the date rape bad? And I was like, Chris, I don't think we have enough time for this conversation.
No. It's just like, what is that ad? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it doesn't really add
I don't know
anything,
why these movies...
But,
like, it didn't really happen in Friday the 13th.
Yeah, but...
It didn't really happen on Halloween.
You know what it does that it does help achieve that I do love that I wrote down in my notes?
Huh?
You know I love more than anything with Jason Voorhees? I love when Jason stabs a guy through another guy. And like, that's how she and that guy end up dying. He comes over with a javelin, I think, and stabs through both of them.
Yeah.
Classic him.
I will go back to Will's friend. Again, I know for a fact I had to have mentioned it in the first review. I still cannot get over it. Like, I can't get over that line where he's like, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. You know why they sing that song? It's because he's coming for you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like, bro, you could have, like, this is, cheesy as hell, but also, that's not how you initiate with a conversation with somebody that you're looking for.
Crazy.
Also, I've written down in my notes, I was thinking it, you said it out loud, Freddy Krueger looks like the pizzas from Jimmy Neutron.
He does. I don't like him having sharp, bitey teeth in the opening.
It's,
Whatever. But anyways.
It feels like fake, let's make him gross.
I've got a couple of other things, but I want to segue to a bigger topic, which is People always say like, oh, like okay, in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven intended for him to be a child molester.
Mm-hmm.
That got scrapped. I think rightfully so.
Yes.
He can just be a child killer. That's spooky enough. Again, the molesting does not add anything.
No, not at all.
It doesn't make him scarier.
Mm-mm.
It just makes it uncomfortable, weird. It makes him unlikable.
Especially at this point when Freddy Krueger is, like they said in the last one, he's an icon. He's Freddy Krueger, and we are supposed to like Freddy Krueger in these.
Yeah.
And when you go, and also he fucks kids. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, now I think he's just gross.
Yeah. And so a couple of things. One is I watched a lot of, horror movie analysis. I said it time and time again. And a lot of my favorite creators always say that thing where they're like, it was always kind of subtly there, but some movies decide to play more into it. I'm like, was it always subtly there? Because we just watched those movies, and never once was there a scene that was even a little sexual, other than, like, I think in the original, he does, like, a tongue thing at, like, Nancy a couple of times or something.
He does, yes.
But whatever. This movie is the first one, in my opinion, where he's, like, explicitly weird and sexual with the women.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, again, why? Like, what does that add for him to be a sex pervert or a sex criminal or a molester or a rapist or a sex... That's not scary.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like I get that it's, like, real world scary. Like, it's traumatic scary. And I'm not trying to, like, white knight or anything like that. It's just, like, one of those things where it's, like I couldn't imagine ever being in, like, in a movie and be like, oh God, I get home and I'm like, Nick, you're not going to believe this movie. The main character's, like, a rapist. And we're both like, egad, like it would just be like, why would you do that? It's like something like Schindler's List. I haven't seen it, but like the idea of genocide is scary, yes, but it's not like something you wouldn't make your serial killer a guy who was like, like this is the guy who flipped the switch at Auschwitz all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's like, well, that's not a cool guy.
Yeah, like I think it's definitely valid for a movie to do to make, like, something sexual and scary at the same time, like every Cronenberg movie. Like, that's totally fine, and that's a vibe that you're going for in a movie, to like explore, like, sex can be scary in a lot of situations. That's fine. That's totally, I'm down with that, but not Freddy Krueger. Like, yeah, like we said it in a couple of movies ago when that one girl has that nightmare about her dad coming on to her. It's like, really? Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6?
Yeah.
You think you're the ones who should be tackling this? You think you're going to do this correctly?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, adding the sexual shit onto Freddy Krueger is just like a way to make him grosser.
Yeah.
When he hasn't been grosser than he was in the second one.
Yeah.
Just physically looking at him, you know? And it's like they lose so much of that because he's just this weird rubbery monster now that it's like, how do we make him scary again? What if he's also like, a rapist? It's like, yeah, that's too much. That's too overboard.
And I only want to bring it up because the next one we're going to watch is the one where he's explicitly a child molester.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, more than he is a child killer. Like, they almost don't even talk about the child killing. They just talk about the child molesting.
Oof.
Yeah, like, spoilers, but basically all of the kids that he's giving nightmares to were kids that he used to molest. So, very much so, not much of a killer in that movie. Just straight up molester.
I saw earlier today, actually, a screenshot of Freddy Krueger in the remake.
Yeah.
Chris, pretty scary.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about the remake.
Lights out.
Thought he was pretty scary.
So here we go. The last kind of thing I've got on my little list here, though, is did you get anything new from this viewing? Now that we've seen all of the Nightmare on Elm Street, was it worth it? Did it change Freddy versus Jason for you at all?
I'd like to hear your opinion on this first.
Mine is no.
Really? Not at all?
No. No.
Oh, fuck. Do you have, like, the... It doesn't matter. Chris, I think this movie kicks ass.
Yeah.
I like this movie tenfold more than I did last time.
Okay. I will say I watched this, and this is the first time that I wasn't the whole time just going like, God damn. I would probably put this, like, in my ranking. Like, I'd probably put it... It'd probably go 2, 1, 6. Wait, where's 7 at? Oh, 2, 1, 7, 6. Freddy versus Jason, then 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, this one's going right after the first one for me.
Okay, so you're going 2, 7, Freddy versus... 2, 7, 1, Freddy versus Jason, then 6.
Yeah, this is number 4 for me.
Yeah, okay.
So
real quick, just final rankings being 2, 1, 7 for me, 6, Freddy versus Jason, then 3, 4, 5, and for you, it is going to be 2, 7, 1, Freddy versus Jason, 6, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of contributing factors to watching it this time around. Me thinking it kicks so much ass. It's probably because, like I said, I think this is the best Freddy is in any of the movies. So that was like felt like a good payoff finally. It was nice to see our old friend Jason again. I really missed him. But also, yeah, I think the
Weston Hills
from
the third one.
Last time we watched this, yeah, definitely shit. I'm sure we said last time. We've said in this one. It's just like, yeah, I don't care about any of these people, and they're kind of dumb. And oh god, I'm fired in the
This
water.
is the only kid I care for.
And oh god, them sitting around that table and being like, oh, how would they know any of that shit? And it's just that like Looney Tunes fight at the end and on the burning dock and stuff like that. Watching it this time, it's like I was thinking about Scream, and like to that point, this movie has to be. What was that?
Work email.
Oh, this movie has to be self-aware in some way, you know. Like the people making this movie for sure know what they're making, and so I don't think they're trying to reinvent the wheel, and I wouldn't want them to. And for sure, the people who wrote this movie aren't like the biggest fans of either of these franchises.
No, I was gonna say I was watching Chris Stuckman talk about this. I think this Friday the 13th, which I don't usually watch Chris Stuckman, but it just kind of came up, and I like horror movies. And he was like, "This kind of feels like 7 or 8 movies stuck together."
Yeah, kind of.
And that's true because it literally was in development hell for over 10 years. So yeah, they're definitely, because like he was just pointing out certain things like I can't recall them in this moment. He was like this side character gets set up, but then like it doesn't really go anywhere later in the movie, and it's like okay, well then there's probably a draft where like that paid off later, but it just doesn't exist in this version, so it's just weird. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have that example, but that is something I wanted to say is that like I think what we got is solid and sound.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like you said, they've been trying to make this movie for 25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely just a cash grab. So for the, I don't know, however many people wrote this movie, to just be like, okay, we have to have Jason kill people in ways that Jason usually kills people. We have to have Freddy have some good nightmares and kill people in some nightmares and stuff like that. And then just by the end of it, we got to get them fighting each other. Mm-hmm. And like, how do we do literally any of that? And so for what this movie is, I think this is the best version of this movie that could probably possibly exist. And it's just a blast front to back, and I really, really enjoyed it this time. And I thought, like, I can't get over how much more I liked this movie this time.
Yeah, I know, and this, the first sequel they pitched where it was Freddy versus Jason versus Ash,
which would have been so much better.
Yes, and the big thing was that who's the guy that runs New Line Cinema?
Robert Shaye.
Yeah, he was basically just like, I don't want Freddy to lose 2 movies in a row, because the thing was like he was like the everybody was just kind of like, well, obviously Ash kills both of them. That's how the movie ends. And Mr. New Line Cinema was like, I can't have Freddy lose 2 movies in a row. It's gonna kill my franchise. And even Robert Englund has been like, it's gonna kill your franchise. I was resurrected by a dog pissing fire. That's so he was like, funny. Literally, you can watch a clip of him saying that. He was like, I was resurrected by a dog pissing fire. I'm sure you can find some way to bring this franchise back, Robert.
Also, have it just have the exact same end shot that this movie has, because Freddy dies at the end of this, and then it comes with him coming out of the lake. I do have written down a list of ways to make this movie better.
Let's hear them.
Add Bruce Campbell, obviously.
Yeah.
The fake Jay Mewes character in this movie.
Have it be Jason Mewes.
Just have it be Jason Mewes.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one is...
How great would it be if Jay and Silent Bob were just there?
So
they weren't even being like Jay and Silent. They don't have to go like Snoogans or whatever. But the whole time they were like... They just had his dialogue where like Jay Mewes was really like, that goalie's pissed about something.
Yeah, it'd be
like
great.
They just never even acknowledge them or even call them by name or something like that. Because already they don't really pay any mind to this Stoner character.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
At all.
Yeah, and like at the end when like they're doing the Looney Tunes fight and like that big construction thing whatever comes down and crashes through a wall, have that happen and then just have like Jay and Silent Bob pop their heads out like cartoon characters and then like blink blink and then they zip away in a cloud of smoke. It'd be great.
Jay and Silent Bob underutilized, I would say.
In every movie that's ever existed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because they just physically look funny.
They do.
They're there I'm laughing.
You draw an oval and a stick and put them next to each other, I'm gonna laugh.
Laurel and Hardy. I think those are two, a fat and skinny guy,
Yeah,
right? What else you got? Abbott and Costello?
Abbott and Costello.
Drake
that's
and
what I was
Josh?
gonna say. Drake and Josh.
It's a time-honored tradition. Fat skinny's the funniest combo.
Oh yeah.
Jonah Hill, Michael Cera.
Shaggy and Scooby Doo. I don't know. Scooby-Doo. And the last thing I think that would have made this movie, like, really put this movie over the top, which is the one thing I said this is the best version of this movie we could get. I think this is the only, like, really conceivable thing that would have, like, really made this movie really work for me.
Excuse me. Wow. It came out of nowhere.
Is if they got, like, a Tom Savini or somebody, one of the like practical effects masters.
Latter half of the movie, some good practical effects for sure.
But like, yeah, the beginning where there's a lot of CGI at the beginning. It's throughout this whole thing. It's like, that kind of blows.
Yeah, I think it was the Dead Meat YouTube channel that I listened to, where he was like, yeah, it's sad to see in the first half so much CGI for two series that are specifically known for their practical effects.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just can't. I really hope I heard someone bring up this hypothetical before, but I really hope that when you die, if heaven is real, something that they let you do is just go, hey, you can just recast movies and just watch that movie, or like go to like an alternate universe and watch whatever that movie would have been. And that's how I feel about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I think I've said this before. That like watching that movie, like this feels insane that this movie exists.
Yeah.
The first one I would probably do is like I would like to see Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, please and thank you.
1 ticket for that, thank you. Yeah. Let me think for 1 second here.
Also love that this girl's wearing a hat the whole time, just like that girl from Halloween. Also, our main character's name is Laurie, just like Halloween.
That's true. We talked about this scene.
I love Jason being unconscious in the back of the truck and then having to drive him to Crystal Lake.
Yeah, pretty tense. It's also funny that that's like a 9-hour drive or whatever.
Yes.
We did the math. It's like 8.5 or whatever. Ah, yeah, the on fire scene, classic. I think he looks good on fire because his neck and head gets beefed up in a way that I feel like his neck and head is too small.
I was gonna say it's a reference to the first Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy's on fire and becomes 3 times his normal size.
Yeah, but as far as the crossover and the Versus movie goes, and even just to mention the Friday the 13th, the state of being that it is currently in, it reminds me of something that James from Cinemassacre brought up about like the Versus movie thing, about how like they don't happen that often because like, you know, studios can't come to like an agreement on like who makes what money wise, or stupid stuff like the whole like, well, Freddy can't lose 2 movies in a row, but like the money wise thing, like his point was like, okay, well, while they both sit on the shelf, they're making $0, so why not just split it down the middle and make some money? You guys like you guys love that shit, like, you know what I'm saying? So it is.
I hate that like I mean. There's always that pissing contest stuff that you hear about, like
the Friday the 13th situation right now. It's like,
bro,
like guys, just split it down the middle. You guys are 80. Like, what does it matter at this point? Like, just make some money before you fucking die.
Yeah. I always think about Who Framed Roger Rabbit when Donald Duck and Daffy Duck are having that piano duel, and then later when Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny are parachuting together, and those happen because both Disney and Warner Brothers were like, well, Mickey Mouse can't be on screen for longer than Bugs Bunny is. And like, well, Bugs Bunny can't be on screen for longer than Mickey Mouse is. So it's like, fine, we'll put them both on screen together for the exact same amount of time. It's just that weird pissing contest. Like, people who own studios are just the world's dumbest people who care about the world's dumbest shit.
Yeah.
And it makes me so mad.
Well, that about wraps it up, I think. Do you have more on your list? Because that was the full run of my notes.
I do love the fight on the dock at the end. I do think it's wild that they poke out Jason's eyes 2 minutes into that, and then he's just up and around fighting people with no eyes. It got me last time, and it got me this time. I don't know why, but like when they both go into the water, and then our main characters are sitting there like, oh, geez, and then like you see the shot of like the boots walking toward them with the machete, and then as it pans up, it's Freddy holding the machete. It's like, oh, twist, they got us. And then when she hits Freddy for the last time, she says, welcome to my world, bitch, and it's great.
Which is so weird, because don't forget that phrase. For some reason, in the remake, they use that.
Really?
It's like the last line of dialogue spoken in the movie or something like that.
That's great.
Yeah. which is just so odd because it's like of all the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of all the pulls from the sequels, that's the pull, you know?
I cannot believe. But I'm pretty happy that we only ever hear "Help Yourself, Fucker" once.
Yeah, pretty good.
Because I don't think I would still have such an affinity for it. It wouldn't make me laugh as much as it does if I didn't.
You got any closing statements?
No.
No?
I think a movie good.
Yeah. I mean, I think I did warm up to this. Still, again, not one of my favorites. I still, like, overall put it, you know, kind of closer to, like, the Jason X side of things, where, like, it's not my favorite thing. But again, like, I don't know if it's just, like, nostalgia, because I grew up with the Jason thing. But I don't know, you saw him for the first time without any kind of nostalgia, and you seemed to like a decent amount of them. But yeah, again, you know, just we'll talk about it more in our wrap-up. But I really have been taken aback by how, like, there's those stretch of 3 that just came out in, like, prime Freddy time that just didn't charm me at all, you know?
Yeah. It's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Next week, doing the remake.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do just the remake? Or, I know it is our Halloween special, do you want to do, like, a cozy, like, start of November movie with it?
Nah, let's just do for remake. Let's
Okay.
just do the remake.
I thought it'd be fun to do a Nightmare on Elm Street and a Goofy movie.
Is that your pick for the first fall movie?
It might be. I know it's
Okay.
set in the summertime, but I do love it. It's a very
Okay.
fall-time movie for me.
Okay. Well, here comes the second to last sign off. I gotta stop. I need to find a way to, like, position it so that I don't do it early, because I keep doing that every time I try to do a gag. This is the second to last time you're gonna hear this shit. That's that, bitch. It's probably one of the worst ones too.
Yeah. Hey, next time will be the best.
Yeah. Gotta really set them home.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,